Hi guys! It's Amy with Aim to Plan, and today I am recording my reaction video for Go Wild 2025. So I was planning to record this video much closer to the end of Go Wild, but I am recording it about a week out from Go Wild, and it will be posting 2 weeks out from Go Wild. But I still think that the information and my reactions are really good for me personally to be able to talk about and just have as I guess like a legacy for my experiences. And so I am going to be talking in this video about a couple of different things. I'll talk about the things that I enjoyed, the things that I didn't enjoy, as well as some of the comparisons between my first Go Wild, which was Go Wild Dallas, and this Go Wild Indy. So as we go through my reactions, I will be posting videos, photos, things like that, as part of just like B-roll footage, so that way you can see some of those things. But I also don't have my notes, and so this is completely free form, and I'm just kind of shooting from the hip for my reactions here. So the first thing is I wanted to start off with talking about some of the things that I really enjoyed about Go Wild Indy. My favorite thing was the size of the hotel as well as the size of the crowd. So the attendee number was much lower from what I can tell to Dallas. Dallas, I feel like, was almost 3 times the size of Indianapolis. Indy was, from what I can tell, somewhere around 700-ish, and Dallas was, I think, closer to 2,000. So it was a much bigger crowd, and so that made a huge difference for me personally as an introvert, because having just 700 people to interact with was just more feasible and, you know, less overwhelming for me personally. I'm not sure how other people would experience it, but for me personally, as someone who just likes to have like close one-on-one relationships with people, I just want to have like side conversations. I don't really have to have or need to have like giant group settings to get my energy. You know, I just really thought that the smaller crowd size, as well as just like having a more intimate space in the hotel room, was just much nicer. So speaking of the hotel room, I thought that the hotel was actually really nice. So one of the things about Indianapolis was, I guess because of the small crowd size, the way that everything was kind of laid out just made a lot more sense to be in a single space for the entire event. In comparison to Dallas, there were some things where we had to move around to other sizes, to other rooms. Like there were like breakout sessions that were not sponsored by Go Wild, but they were like run by attendees, and so those were in different parts of the conference space. For Indianapolis, on the other hand, there were really only 3 main spaces that were being used. 2 were right next to each other. There was the main ballroom where the majority of events happened. Then there was the planner fair, which was literally right next door to the ballroom in whatever the room was called. And then there was a space on the 2nd floor, which was used for the welcome party. And so everything was contained within just like a couple of levels of the hotel, which I thought was really manageable for me personally. I didn't get lost. I knew exactly where I was going for the most part. Of course, I can still get lost. I remember like not finding registration right away on the first day, just because I didn't know where I was going. So that was definitely a plus for me. Talking about the actual event, so what are some of the things that I really enjoyed about the conference? And the design of the conference, and I'm trying to stay high level here. I got into the nitty gritty of like details and what I enjoyed about different sessions in my flip through of my notebook, so definitely check out that video if you want to see that. But in terms of high level overall conference experience, the things that I really enjoyed about it was that there were no breakouts. I know that some people like to pick the things that will make the most sense for them. I personally attend a lot of conferences, professional conferences, and so I do a lot of breakout sessions, and so I understand that there's a value to having breakout sessions, but I also really like the idea that we're all together and we're all doing this together. So that kind of does lead to something that's a little bit on the more negative side, which is that I don't really get to choose the sessions that I attend. And so because there are no breakout sessions, I attended everything with everyone else. And some of those were not sessions that really spoke to me. They were not necessarily things that I enjoyed personally. And so that makes a difference. If you had breakout sessions that could be tailored to you and were things that you wanted to do, then absolutely you would enjoy that a lot more. The big one that really stuck out to me was the wild crop. Now for the wild crop, I personally am a reader, but I will pretty much never, and I mentioned this in my notebook flip through, I will pretty much never write in my book. I think that's, I don't know, I'm not quite there yet. So I appreciate Amy's session and her workshop on like creative book annotating, but I didn't participate in the actual like annotating of a book, even though we did the book swap. I did take notes for her session, but I also don't know that I would ever apply that in any future book that I pick up. So I fully 100% agree with what she's saying. Like taking notes and highlighting and annotating does give you a better like connection to the writing. As a professor myself, I really do think that that's important. Like I definitely encourage my students to take notes, annotate in their textbooks, things like that. I just don't know why I can't carry those same things into an actual like fiction or nonfiction book that I'm reading for pleasure. But definitely I annotate my textbooks. I annotate and highlight and take notes and doodles and all of that in my Bible with my Bible journaling stuff. I just haven't been able to shift it to like actual reading. So that was definitely one of the ones where personally I just felt like it didn't really connect to me. And so speaking, again, more broadly about the conference, without the breakout sessions, I felt like I was sitting through several sessions that didn't really connect with me personally. It wasn't as relevant to me. Another one that really stuck out to me was the mental health panel. I am a mental health professional, so I'm a psychologist. One of the things that I really thought was going to be more present during that particular talk was how mental health and planning would connect to each other. And so that was to me like something of a missed opportunity for the panel. They focused a lot on their own personal experiences of dealing with mental health and their mental health journey, and processed a lot of like family of origin type of points in their conversation, in their discussion. The other thing that they talked a lot about was how they were able to move beyond the mental health components into their business. And so as someone who doesn't own a small business, a lot of that conversation was not super relevant to me. And in fact, a lot of the sessions really highlighted like small business owners, which actually I really loved that. I appreciated that they were able to speak on their perspective and still provide practical tips. So the ones that were I think good examples of that were like Heather Kell from Kell of a Plan, Mo from Pipsticks. They are both small business owners, women who own small businesses, like planner companies, sticker companies, but they were also able to talk about like the planning aspect of it. Like how do they work through some of the things that they have to manage as a woman, as a wife, as a mother, as a business owner. So even though it was business owner speaking to me, it was much more planning oriented. And so again, like that was a good, there was some bad with, in my opinion, the mental health panel not connecting it to planning. Since it is a planner conference, I feel like that was a missed opportunity there. And then really I have only one other thing that I really thought was a negative, and that was the way that the John Green book signing occurred. So this was really just my personal, like my own personal thing. Again, I'm an introvert. I also did take to the conference, not to the conference, but to Indianapolis, my family. And so in between the breaks, so with the conference set up the way it is, you have morning sessions and then evening activities. So whether it's a session or an event of some sort, like a party. In between, there's like a 5-hour gap, like from 1 or 2 until 7 o'clock. So there's a wide enough gap where I'm able to spend some time with my family. Well, the John Green book signing ended up occurring on the second day of the conference. So already I was a little bit tired from like being out there, I'm just going to completely own that. That was some of my own personality. So it was at the very end of the second day of the conference. And so my family actually came over to hang out with me. And then I was like, okay, we're just going to go through this book line and just, get my book, sign the book, talk to John Green for a couple of seconds, and then we'll go do our thing. Well, it ended up being where we were standing in not just one line, but two lines. And so there was a line to get the book, to pick up the book, which was quite long. And then I was like, oh yay, like I've made it through this line. Now I can just kind of walk in and get my book signed. But we were directed around the corner to this different section, and there was just a very long line. And so I was like, oh no. And I remember my reaction in the video. I'll post that just so you can hear that yourself.
I do. Kelly took all my stuff. If you have your books open, folded, name on Post-it. Mine was
Very long line. Hello, long line people. I know. Hey, you're here.
We made it!
I'm in the very back. You still got a long way to go.
It's not good, like attitude.
Hello. It's a ridiculously long line. Here I am at the back, the very, very back. But I was just like, oh, okay, this is a very long line. After I recorded that video, I actually went back to my family and told them, listen, I know you're waiting for me to get through this book line, but it's going to be about an hour. And it was actually about an hour. And so I sent them back to the hotel room so that way they can just hang out and do their own thing. I'll just meet up with them later. But that was, again, like that was mostly me, like being an introvert, just not really thinking that, I was going to be standing in multiple lines at the very end of the conference before, going back to hang with my family. The process itself was actually very seamless. We got in this line, we got the book. I actually ended up getting my Erin Condren drop from the welcome party at the same time. So that was like very nice to be able to do that at the same time. And then the line was lovely because I was able to stand in both lines with separate groups of people. That was mostly because I was skipping out and talking with my kids and hanging out with other people in between lines. But I was able to talk and chat with the people around me. Again, me personally, I was just being probably a little bit more complainy than I needed to be because of where I was, like level-wise, energy level-wise. But I enjoyed all of the interactions that I had with the ladies in the line with me, in both lines with me. And so I appreciate the chance to make those small connections with people, and so I absolutely enjoyed that. That was to me the only negative. Is like I personally think that maybe it would have been a little bit better to have only one line, just the book signing line, and allow people to pick up their book at different points of the conference instead of keeping it just to that one time, literally right before the book signing itself. So that really was my only major complaint. I'm thinking of one other thing. The one other thing that I think really was a disappointment to me, I wouldn't say it was necessarily a negative, was the size of the planner fair. So for me, in comparison to Dallas, Dallas sizes were so much bigger, and I don't know if that makes a difference for like who was invited or like how they were invited. I don't know the behind the scenes of the planner fair, but at the planner fair for Dallas, I would say there were probably 10s, 20s, like in the 20, 25 range. I don't know exact numbers, but there were just a lot more vendors and sponsors that were represented at the planner fair at Dallas. For Indianapolis, on the other hand, there were really only 4. And so that was really, I don't know, it was just disappointing to me. I did not buy anything at Dallas. I just walked around and enjoyed the planner fair. Same for Indianapolis. I didn't buy anything there either. And I went in with the intention of not buying anything. So my daughter really wanted me to buy stuff. So I will say that. She wanted me to like buy all the Hello Kitty stuff from Pipsticks. I might actually get her the Hello Kitty subscription kit. So like, anyway, that whole separate conversation. But it was just disappointing not to have the opportunities like the photo ops and the fun stuff that we had, I thought, at Dallas, where there were just like lots more interactivity. There were more interactions with people. It just felt like a livelier place last year than it did this year. So it was just much smaller, in my opinion. I did enjoy it still, but it was definitely not something where I needed several hours to walk through. It was, I went through every single day, but it was something where I could walk through just a few minutes, and you were pretty much done just because there were only a handful of vendors who were there. So I do think that part of that issue is because of the timing of the announcements and some of the I don't know, like the behind the scenes of like how marketing and merch and licensing and all of those things kind of came out. I know for sure that there was a difference from Dallas to Indianapolis for the announcements of the speakers. Those to me came out much later, I thought, than they did for Dallas. I don't know timing wise if that's true or not, but that was my perception of it. And so I don't know if that plays into some of the like size of the planner fair, but overall I really enjoyed the experience. I am definitely going to New Orleans. That's like drivable for me. I drove to Dallas as well as to Indianapolis, and New Orleans is like right around the corner for me. So I'm definitely going. I actually might be able to talk some friends of mine, family members, to go with me, so I'm excited about that trip, and it'll be so much fun to experience it with some of my actual personal friends, not planner friends, but of course I would love to meet you too if you're going to New Orleans. But yeah, like in terms of overall experience, I really enjoyed it. I liked the smaller size. The only real big disappointments for me were the size of the planner fair, and some of the long lines for, in particular, the John Green book signing. Everything else was actually perfect, I thought. There were some things that were not relevant to me, but I don't know that that's something that we can't cater to every single person in every single event. So that's just like a personal preference, and I don't see that there's anything that's negative about that. It just was something that was just not relevant to me. So overall experience, definitely a 2 thumbs up. I really enjoyed it, just like I did Dallas. They were definitely different vibes for sure. Dallas was much more like a party vibe, so many more people, so much more interaction and like loudness, if I had to describe it, bigger in Texas, right? Indianapolis was much more laid back, which I actually enjoyed a lot. So definitely preferred Indianapolis. So that's just my take on it. I didn't really vibe with the book theme, but I enjoyed everything. And I don't know that it was like super heavy into the book theme. So that was really nice for me as, someone who reads, but I don't necessarily make book planning or reading a planning hobby. So I feel like I've rambled quite a bit here. So those are my takeaways. Again, I did this kind of like on the fly. I don't have my notes or anything like that. So I'm really just speaking from me to you to give you my reactions to Go Wild. My overall take, definitely go if you can. I know financially speaking, it's definitely a big burden, but the experience of connecting with other people who really enjoy your hobby and are there just to enjoy life, right? They're there to have fun, to separate from maybe the day-to-day of what their lives look like on the normal basis, and just to come together with a community of women who really enjoy the same thing, and that's a common goal and a common hobby, a common interest already, and then you could just take it to the next step. I think that's really powerful in many ways, and as a psychologist, I personally promote very heavily the idea of social connection, like staying connected with people, whether they are your family, your friends, or your planner friends, who can also very much be your family and friends. That's very important to your mental health and just overall outlook on life. So definitely do it if you can. I am now a strong advocate for engaging in it myself. Even though I've taken my family every single year, I will eventually get to the point where I go by myself and I'll be even more immersed in the Go Wild community. So I'm excited for that. And again, just my reactions, my personal reactions and opinions for how Go Wild Indy went. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do give it a thumbs up. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to my channel. And until the next video, bye guys.